You are listening to Mushing on First Paw Media. Visit our website at mushing.com.
Hello and welcome, everybody. This is Robert, and you are listening to the Burled Arch podcast, a nightly show about the last great race. And tonight I am joined by my co-host, Michele. Michele, how's it going today?
It's going great, Robert.
I am looking forward to this. This is the lull before the storm. The banquet was last night. The ceremonial start is tomorrow. And just in a couple of days, it will be race time. So let's jump right into this. If you do not know, the Burled Arch podcast is the longest running, most popular podcast about the last great race. And it is possible by our Patreon supporters over at patreon.com/firstpawmedia and our Mushing Plus subscribers. Find out more at mushing.com/mushing plus. Tonight's rundown is we are going to do our predictions. We're going to talk a little bit about the banquet. We have a very cool soundbite from rookie Charmayne Morrison, and we are going to answer a couple of questions from our listeners. Remember, you can ask your questions by calling us and leave us in a voicemail at 303-578-9881. That number will also be in the show notes. All you have to do is click, and it will do a call right away. Let's jump into this, Michele. It was the first time you attended the banquet. Tell us what you think.
Last night was my first Iditarod mushers meet and greet and banquet. And I gotta say, it was fantastic to see so many people out and about and enjoying the festivities. However, once you walked into the space where the mushers were, it got a little bit confusing. There were high bar tables spattered around the room with no real rhyme or reason or direction. It was difficult to find the mushers that you were truly hoping to get to be able to talk with for just a few moments before moving on to the next one. I think that it may have been better served if they had had a bank of tables that were lower, where the mushers could sit down and or stand and come up and meet the people. That way, instead of being spattered around, there was just not enough space for people in the area. Where they had this meet and greet, it was very crowded, and again, you could not see the mushers because of the amount of people in the lines that made it difficult to figure out who it was. For example, when you walked into the room, there had to have been a line of about 100 people deep for Mitch Seavey. Although you had no idea it was Mitch Seavey unless you were walking around the room and happened to figure out that that's who that line was for.
I tend to agree with you, Michele. It sort of reminded me of a speed dating networking event. And while there were plenty of tables there, 33, of course, with the number of mushers, it was very difficult to navigate around. They didn't have any order in terms of rookies on this side, veterans on that side, males on this side, females on that side. It was just sort of a mishmash of people there. And I thought they could probably do a little bit better, but I'm sure we will get some comments saying otherwise.
Possibly, but I mean, even the name cards were awful small. And so, again, it just made it seem difficult. And from what I could hear when I was maneuvering around the room as a media person, I could tell that people weren't sure where to go next once they finished with the musher that they had stood in line for. And so they just started literally going from the end of one line to the next. And so it made it difficult, but I think that everybody still did have a good time. That being said, I stood in line too. I didn't elbow my way up to the front just because I had a media pass. I stood in line and I patiently waited my turn to get my 90-second interviews.
And we're going to play one of those right now. It is rookie Charmayne Morrison.
Charmayne Morrison, this is her first time mushing Iditarod. My question to you is, why do Iditarod?
I started running sled dogs about 11 years ago, and I learned about the Iditarod as a kid, and that's why I got into sled dogs, and that's been the goal ever since. I'm very excited. I've been working towards this for about the past 5 years, breeding my own team of puppies, qualifying, learning as much as I can, mentoring under Rob, Gregor, and Kara for the last 7 years, hearing their stories and getting to see all the other mushers' passion really just instills that in a person. And so I'm excited. I'm happy to be here. Hopefully we'll be here more in the future. I hope to make a career of it and have done so till now. So yeah.
What do you think is going to be the most challenging part of the trail for you?
I don't know. I'm a little bit bummed that we're not going over kind of the iconic Alaska range and the steps and the gorge and the burn. And I'm happy we're not going over there because it might be a little low snow and I don't need to be crashing or anything. Challenging part of this trail, 600 or 700 miles of Yukon River might get a little boring. We'll see. I've got a lot of audiobooks and some music and stuff downloaded. My dogs have not really run in a lot of rivers. We run mountains at home, and so that'll be different for us. We'll see how they handle it. I think it'll be a little easier for them, but I'm excited.
So audiobooks and music. What is the audiobook that you are looking forward to listening to the most?
Oh man. It's the book 5 of the Way of Kings series. It came out in December, and I've been saving it for Iditarod, and it's like 63 hours long. So I'm pretty happy about that. Looking forward to that. So,
well, when you get bored of that, you should download Mushing, the podcast, so that you can hear us while you're out there. All joking aside, we wish you luck, and we think that you're going to do great.
Thank you.
So that was Charmayne Morrison. Interesting, Michele. I remember interviewing her way back when she was a junior musher doing junior Iditarod several years ago. This young lady has come a long way in just a short time. I know that she is very dedicated to her dogs and ready to rock and roll on the Iditarod Trail. Let's shift gears a little bit. Let's head upstairs to the Mushers Banquet. It started right at 6 o'clock, and it was a truly festive event. Tell us about it.
So this would have been also my first time getting to enjoy the Iditarod Banquet. And we were guests of one of the sponsors, and we'll get into that in just a moment. But as you walked into the room, you could definitely tell that they had set out 100 tables with about 10 seats for each table. As we mentioned, there were 1,100 people in attendance, which is pretty extraordinary. They had a silent auction along the back wall where they had lots of different types of items, including an official Iditarod Trail sign. To obtain the silent auction bidding, you had to upload a QR code, and then you did your bidding along with anybody else that was able to obtain that QR code, which made it interesting for sure. There wasn't a whole lot of hovering around, if you know what I mean. If you've ever attended a silent auction, you got to beat out that kid that wants that special coloring book, don't you, Robert?
Oh, yeah.
So, anyhow, there was also a guy walking around carrying a square terminal so that he could take your credit card and hand you some red raffle tickets. No one around us, for that matter, had any clue what this guy was doing, what he was selling these raffle tickets for, or what kind of prize they would elicit. We found out at the end, and it was a little bit disappointing in my opinion. It was one door prize, and although it was a nice amount of fish, 16 pounds of assorted fish locally caught here in Alaska, which was a handsome gift, they didn't really make us aware of who donated that gift and why was there only one red raffle ticket prize given out. Then the festivities got started. We watched a nice video that they put together. But I was really impressed by Martin Boozer and his fabulous tribute to Dr. Stu through the eyes of the dogs. It was a truly remarkable speech that he did. And for me, like I said, it was the top of the evening. watching the mushers grab their numbers out of the muckluck, I really wished they had turned around to the crowd. As we know, mushers do have a tendency to be very shy. None of them really turned around and addressed the crowd, except for Nick Pettit, who had something to say for just a little moment, but we all know that he can be quite the jokester. Again, encouraging the mushers to engage with the crowd that was there to celebrate them may have been a better opportunity to continue to promote the sport and really make the fans that were there at $165 a plate feel like they were appreciated just a little bit more.
Yeah, it's an interesting way that they do things. They're trying to do it as quickly and as efficiently as possible. But there's not a lot of fan engagement there. It's much different at the finishers banquet. But just to set the tone a little bit, the way that they did it in 3 stages. They did it by sign-up order. So the first 20 people were their first 2 stages. And those were the people that signed up at the Iditarod banquet back in June. So they picked their numbers 1 through 33. And we're going to put a list of musher bib orders in the show notes. So they did the first 10, then they did an auction item, which Michelle's going to talk about in just a second. Then they did a little bit of a break. Then they did the second 10, another auction item. And then they did the last 13 to round out the evening.
Absolutely. And I got to tell you, the live auction guy was fabulous. They should have him back again. He livened up the mood in the room and really got people engaged in what he was trying to raffle off. And so his job was to get you to purchase trips, pretty much. They started off with a trip. You could choose either Vegas or Tahoe, and you would spend a 4-day, 3-night weekend or week in either location, your choice. I think this one was for up to 4 of your friends. Can't remember exactly. But he started the bidding for that particular prize at $1,000. I believe they got up to $3,000 on that one, Robert. I don't remember. The next prize was a trip to Tuscany. This one got interesting. This one was for you and up to 3 others to join you in Tuscany. Airfare and rental car not included. This would be just the Airbnb type of location. I believe he said it was an apartment. Anyhow, they got the bidding up to $3,000, which was a magic number, and then they were able to take anybody in the room that was willing to match it at $3,000 would also get to enjoy that trip at a different time, of course. The last one was a pretty big deal. I can't remember how they pronounced that lodge retreat, Robert, but that one was a $16,000 retreat, and they got the bidding up to $13,000, so somebody made out.
Yeah, that was a very cool lodge. If I had that kind of money that was slinging around...
Was it Tickle something?
I don't remember. If I had that kind of money that was slinging around that conference hall, boy, it would have been a great trip to take. It is a very exclusive fly-in fishing lodge there. But as I mentioned, Michelle, they did the mushers draw. So the first musher to go out will be Jason Mackey, and the last musher to go out will be in musher 34. That will be Emily Ford, a rookie. You have anything else about the banquet before we jump into the next section?
I just do want to give a shout out to Pike Legal Group. We were guests of theirs, and we did appreciate that opportunity. Got to meet a bunch of fine people at our table. I believe that we met the handler for Ryan Reddington.
Yep, down in the Girdwood deal that they do in the summertime. Tyler Schmidt, I believe, is his name. A fun couple to hang out with during the banquet for sure. But it was wrapped up by about 8:30, 9 o'clock, and we were headed home with a lot of other mushers getting their way up to their hotels for the weekend or back home. I know that Bailey Vitello drove all the way back to Nenana this morning to do one last run on his home trails before he drives back down here, I assume tonight, for the ceremonial start tomorrow. So he's got a lot of driving under his belt.
I bet you, Robert, he needed to go back up there to his home trails to get another dip in that ice bath that he showed on his intro video. And man, I gotta tell you, he put together the best intro video of the night.
Yep, it said that he is going to use the force on the Iditarod Trail, and he said he's the only musher with a mullet, I believe, or something like that. He is a character, and for longtime listeners of the podcast, you will know we interviewed him way back when he was still a sprint musher living in New Hampshire. This was probably 10 years ago, so this young man has come a long way for sure. So let's jump over to our listener questions. We have 2 of them that came in today. Remember, you can send us your questions over on our voicemail. You don't even have to talk to us. You can just leave a voice recording, or you can do it on socials as well. Remember, the number is 303-578-9881. And for you night owls, you can do it at 4 o'clock in the morning. And when we wake up, we will find out who you're talking about, and we will do our best to answer the question the next day. So
Robert, do you want them to say their name and where they're from on those voicemails?
Yes, please say your location and who you are, so we can give you some credit for your question here on the podcast. So the first one is from a longtime couple, fans of the show,
Supporters, Robert.
supporters for sure, and it's 2 questions. The first one is from Patty. She says, even though they're only running 4 miles through Anchorage for the ceremonial start, can you talk about what it will be like for the teams and the mushers when it is so warm and there is hardly any snow for the start? Is there plans to cart in snow for the entire 4 miles in addition to what they normally do on the street downtown? So this is really 2 questions. So the first part of that, we checked the weather right before we jumped on air. It's supposed to be 37 degrees tomorrow with a light breeze, so it's a little bit warm for the dogs. But remember when we talked just the other day, this is only about a 2 or 3 mile run. It will take about 10 to 12 minutes, so not very long at all. They will still have the Iditarider in the basket of the sled. They will have the main sled with the dogs hooked up to it, and then they will have the drag sled or the tag sled, whichever you call it, with a second musher. Typically, it's the significant other or handler of that musher, and then they will take off down the trail. And yes, they will have to cart in snow. I would bet my bottom dollar that they are busy doing that right now as we're recording this about 7 o'clock on Friday night. The master of the ceremonial start, Carl Heidelbach, says he does not know how they're going to bring it. He doesn't care how they bring it, just as long as they bring it by Saturday morning at 10:30 in the morning. So they will line the streets all the way down 4th Avenue, turn right onto Cordova, all the way down Cordova, which is about half of the trail, and then into the parking lot of the Sullivan Arena. And that's our biggest arena here in town. It's pretty much in the middle of town, I guess you would say, and a very large parking lot. And they're going to have all of their festivities there. And I remember at the media briefing, one of the questions that they asked was, how in the world are they going to get their dog trucks from where they start the ceremonial in the middle of town on 4th Avenue down to the the Sullivan Arena just a couple of miles away? But because by the time they start, there's not really a way to go jump in your car through traffic, down through town, make a right, make a left, and then make it to the parking lot in time. So Carl was even joking by saying, these guys better learn how to hook onto the parking meters in town as they get ready to pull the hook, as they say, and make their way down to the Sullivan Arena. And speaking of which, I'm just going to spend one quick second back on the Banquet. One of the things that you could bid on was the countdown. And this brought in a lot of money. And what they're doing is they allow one person, whoever had the highest bid in the auction, to do a countdown, the 3, 2, 1, and go at the ceremonial start for one random musher. So they're still going to do that. They're still going to do all the festivities there in town, have the banner and all of that that's going to be ready to go. So the next part of Patty's question is, how are they going to keep the dogs cool? And as I said, it is such a short run. It will be very difficult to overheat the dogs in that short amount of time. But in precautions, none of these guys are going very fast. They don't have a way to put in their brake. The brake, if you recall, is usually some type of aluminum with spikes in it. Those do not work well on asphalt. That is the reason why we have the drag sled or tag sled, and then, of course, the Iditarod. So it will allow them to run relatively slow, probably 10, 12 miles an hour or so. And remember, as I said just the other day, they're only taking 8-dog teams. So things will be slow. Things will be kind of laid back. It's always just kind of a circus atmosphere. No big deal. Remember, you cannot win the Iditarod by running the ceremonial start. But remember that one person did scratch a few years ago by crashing and having a concussion or whatever. I don't remember exactly what happened, but he had to pull out right after the ceremonial start. So there's Patty's question. The next question is from Richard, Patty's husband, and it says, as we're looking at a route and there is 600 miles on rivers and not going over the Alaska Range, how do you see that creating a significantly different dynamic for this race? Is there any kind of training that mushers and teams that might have been doing might give them an advantage for all of this river racing? Excellent questions. If you remember just a few minutes ago when we did the soundbite from Charmayne Morrison, she was not used to running on the rivers. Lauro Eklund is right from that region, and he was excited to run right by his hometown where he grew up there in Tanana. He gave a very moving speech about his first sled dog that he ever bought from Lester Earhart for two cords of wood, and I think he said $600. So if you do know much about Iditarod, you do know that a good portion of the race is already on the Yukon River every year. So this is just going to be a little bit longer. It should be a little bit faster. It should be a little bit colder. But being a person that has spent many a day, many an hour, many a mile on the rivers, it can be a slog. You're just kind of just going from 1 mile to the next to kind of an empty expanse. I think you should have pretty good leaders to do this. You do not want your team to shut down that early in the race because you're literally just, you're on a highway. It is truly the Alaskan highway, all of these rivers. So they're going to take the Tanana River down to the Yukon, then they'll take the Yukon all the way down to Caltag, and then they're going to make that loop and then back up and then onward to the Portage and over to Unalakleet. I remember it was either at the Banquet last night or on the video that Matt Hall was doing. He said that he is prepared to run on the river, but he is not anticipating shooting out of the gate fast and, passing all the teams. He just wants to take it nice and easy for the first few days and really just get his groove. And that's sort of the Iditarod mentality for sure. There's been a lot of talk about, is it going to make the race faster by having all of these miles on the river? Could be. They're not quite sure when the champion will come into Nome. It could be anywhere from a typical year of Monday night, Tuesday morning, up to sometime on Thursday. So it will really determine when the runners are coming in, and I think a lot of that's going to be shook out in the first couple of days. So those are our first 2 questions of the series. Remember, shoot us over a question or 2 and we will be sure to answer them. We may not answer them directly on the next show, specifically if it is related to a topic we're going to talk about later in the series when we start talking about awards and 24s and run rest schedules and drop dogs and all that sort of stuff. We have sort of a schedule we follow. So if you ask questions about that, we will get to those as they come in. So please ask away. So up next, we do want to talk about one of my favorite things that we do on this series, especially on this Calm Before the Storm. We are going to do our predictions. And what we typically do is we do our top 5 mushers, one after the other, and then we pick our rookie of the year. I never ask who my co-host is going to pick, and we've had several co-hosts over the years. My friend my friend Tony, and my friend Alex, and of course Michelle, and
your friend Patty.
And Patty, yeah.
We got them to do predictions.
She did predictions as well. So here we go. Let's start off. Michelle, you can go first in no particular order, but I may put you on the spot when you tell me who they are, about who you think's going to win. But let's do our first top 5, and then we'll do our rookie after each other. We'll do that second. So just your top 5 first. Who do you have?
I really hate it when you make me go first. Top 5. I think that it's really going to come down to the trail. However, I think that we're going to see Jesse Holmes and Nick Petit really set the pace. I think Ryan and Mitch are going to run a little bit more conservatively in the beginning. And I think that the 4 of them are really a toss-up there for the finish. And so right off the bat, I would call out the 4 of them. Mitch, I'm a little bit unsure of, due to the fact that he hasn't raced in 3 years. And one of these younger guys or gals might sneak up behind him and take him. I think Anna Barrington would be my other choice, but I'm also keeping an eye on Millie Porcelid. So I actually have a top 6 if I'm allowed.
All right. I am not going to put you on the spot yet, but good picks for sure. So
Did you write them down?
I did. So my top picks are Jeff Dieter, Nick Petit, Jesse Holmes, Matt Hall, and Millie Porcelid. Those are my top 5 picks. So, Michelle, before we do Rookie of the Year, do you have a projected winner in your top 5?
No, I do not have a projected winner in my top 5.
Ooh, guys, we got to prod her a little bit. I do a lot of studying of this over the year. I talk to a lot of these guys on the podcast. I follow them on social media. I know where they finished over the last few years. I know where they kind of stand in their run rest schedules. I remember watching a video last night at the Banquet about Daniel Klein. He says he does not want to be competitive at all. He just wants to get out there and run. I remember listening to Keaton Lobrecht, I believe is his name. He says he has his sights on winning the whole thing, but he does not want to jinx himself. That would be very interesting to see that young man do it. I had no idea he studied astrophysics in college. Laurel Eklund ran a very solid race last year, and if you recall, he did very good on the river. And of course, my all-time favorite, Matt Failer. It was really a toss-up on the mats for me. Was it going to be Matt Failer or Matt Hall? I've really liked what Matt Hall has been talking about on his social media over the last few years. The only reason I'm not saying Matt Failer is I know he has a lot of things going on at home, and I'm sure he's 100% ready for Iditarod, but he has a brand new baby. He even took up the little tyke up to the starting order So I am sure he's 100% focused on Iditarod, but I think that Matt Hall may edge him out a little bit. And of course, there are a lot of rookies out there. You cannot forget about folks like Jason Mackey and, of course, Mitch Seavey and Travis Beals, all of those guys, even Paige Drobny, all of those guys and girls can do a great thing. So let's move over to the Rookie of the Year. There are 15 rookies this year, so almost half of the field is running the race for the first time. I am very interested to hear what you have to say on Rookie of the Year, Michele.
I think it's going to be Brenda Mackey.
That is the same pick I have. I think that she is going to claim Rookie of the Year, and I thought a lot about this because, again, I know a lot of these guys over the years, and I have followed Brenda and her husband Will for a very long time, and this is not any fanboy or fangirl fandom on our part, but well over half of our dogs in our kennel are from Brenda Mackey's kennel. I just think that she has the best chance of doing the Rookie of the Year this year, but I don't know what Keaton said last night. It could be his year as well. What do you think?
I think it's going to be Brenda.
Let's see. Okay, so there are our top 5. So next is our dark horse. In my definition, a dark horse is somebody that you don't know a lot about, somebody that fans may not know a lot about, somebody that may be flying under the radar, somebody that might pull a fast one out on the trail and really spark some attention. It could be really anything that could cause them to be a dark horse. Who is your dark horse in the race, Michele?
I'm tossing it up between Dane Baker and Travis Beals.
And how come you say that?
I think that they are flying under the radar. Well, Travis is known. I don't know if Dane is known in the fan world as much as we'd like to hope that he is, but I think that they're flying under the radar. Another one might even be Bryce Mumford.
All right. And as
I mean, are you asking me if they're going to win?
Nope, just somebody that may pull something out of their hat and just do something crazy. And I don't know if they'll win.
Something crazy, I'd say Laurel.
Okay, I don't know if they're necessary.
Something crazy would definitely say Laurel, but he's not flying under the radar.
I don't know what it could be, but just something to really add some true flavor to the race. And of course, Riley Dyke is running under his kennel name, Dark Horse Kennels.
That's right.
So he is the true dark horse, but I am going to go with somebody that a lot of people don't know much about, and that is Mike Parker. Mike Parker is running under Jim Lanier. He is a gentleman that has ran, I believe, in every decade of the Iditarod, from the 70s all the way up to the 2020s, if I recall. Jim Lanier. We know Jim from our time when he had his kid running on Junior Iditarod with us. But Mike Parker, he's a guy that kind of keeps his head down. But those northern white dogs, they can be a force to be reckoned with out there on the trail. And it will be very interesting to see how he does. I know Mike from being a fellow board member on the Chugiak Dog Mushers. He has no pie in the sky dreams about winning the race, but he fully thinks that he is going to do well. So
on his soundbite, he shared a little tidbit with me.
Okay, well, we'll play that in the next day or so. Interesting stories very quickly before we move on. I really like Justin Olness's story. I just interviewed him and his wife just a few weeks ago over on the podcast. You can find that over on our Mushing podcast feed. I believe he said more than half of his team are rescue dogs. He runs out of a kennel called Rerun Kennel. a heck of a story there. Quince Mountain is back. He is
representing the ugly doll.
He is very well represented. I think they had the loudest cheer from the back of the room at the banquet. He and his wife, Blair Braverman, are big-time fan favorites, and they will definitely keep the things going. We talked about Charmayne Morrison. Connor McMahon, this guy here, I know he had to scratch last year, but he is one that could definitely be
he might sneak up.
He might be the dark horse.
He might sneak up on his little soundbite. You guys will get a kick out of it. Hopefully you can make sense of what he's saying. But these are his trails.
That's what he says. And we were talking about Bailey and the mushroom mullet. So he could be one to watch as well. I mean, literally, we have a very cool field.
I think that we might have overlooked Michele Phillips.
Michele Phillips is always a contender, and she could have easily been in my top 5, definitely in the top 10, as well as Ryan Reddington up there. Definitely could be in that top 10 along with Travis Beals and so.
Yeah, I want everybody out there that's listening to participate and drop the comments on our Facebook page. Who are your top 5?
Let us know in the comments. Let us know on that voicemail. We would love to hear from you for sure. So let's see what is next. Before we close tonight, what is happening tomorrow? We will be down covering the ceremonial start. We're leaving here at about 5:30 in the morning, making the hour-and-a-half drive down to Anchorage for a very quick ceremonial start. It should be over by lunchtime. You figure there's 33 mushers at 3 minutes a pop. That's about 90 minutes of a ceremonial start, and then we will head back home to Willow, and I'm going to jump in the car on Sunday morning and make the drive up to Fairbanks. We have a mushers media briefing on Sunday evening at the Pikes Waterfront Lodge to get us ready for the restart. And then everybody will be heading north, if not late tomorrow after the ceremonial start, or very early on Sunday for that restart on Monday. Remember, they are going to push it back by a day so everybody can make their way north for sure. So, Michele, we will be back on tomorrow. Is there anything we missed? Anything that we didn't cover? And remember, our musher profile of the evening starts tomorrow. Do you have any idea who your first one is? I never ask these until the day before, or even find out when they talk about it. Do you have one?
No, you know what? I need some help. I need some help from our supporters and our fans. You guys, I listen to all of Robert's podcasts when he interviews these guys, and I really need some help. Who do you want to know about? Who do you want me to profile first? Let us know, hopefully before tomorrow night, and I will choose one from the list, and that'll help me out, you guys, a lot.
So think about this, guys. We will be on the air for over 2 weeks. We will be on through the banquet, which is 2 weeks from Sunday. So that is 14 nights of musher profiles. There's only 33 mushers. So we will have well over half of the field on our musher profile segment. And remember, we typically like to focus on the stories that most people don't know about. So people know a heck of a lot about Ryan Reddington and Jesse Holmes and Mitch Seavey and Jason Mackey and Nick Petit, and all of those guys get a lot of coverage. So we like to share the love, if you will, for the middle to the back of the Packers. So we will interview or talk about a lot of these guys as we're moving in. So with that, we will talk to you guys tomorrow. Make sure you hit that follow button so you never miss an episode, and it will be right there in your feed when it drops. I think that's the best way to do it because we are hosting at all different times, all different places, so you never know if we're going to be on at 7 o'clock Alaska time or 2 p.m. Eastern time or 2 a.m. Europe time. You just don't know. So hit that subscribe button wherever you get your podcast over at the Burled Arch podcast. We will see you guys next time. Goodbye.
Are you a fan of the great outdoors? Do you enjoy the thrill of speed and adventure? Then listen up. Introducing Mushing, your ultimate guide to the exciting world of dog-powered sports and mushing. Whether you're a seasoned musher or just starting out, Mushing has got you covered. Get ready to immerse yourself in captivating stories of incredible sled dog races, expert training tips from seasoned professionals, and gear reviews to help you make the right choices for your team. From the breathtaking landscapes of Alaska to the snowy trails of Scandinavia, Mushing takes you on a thrilling journey through the world of dog-powered sports. Don't miss out on the latest issue, packed with exclusive interviews with top mushers, in-depth articles on sled dog nutrition, and stunning photography that will transport you to the heart of the action. So whether you're dreaming of competing in the Iditarod or simply want to learn more about this incredible sport, Mushing is your go-to resource. Subscribe now and get ready to unleash your passion for mushing. Visit our website at mushing.com or find us on your favorite podcast platform. Mushing, where the spirit of adventure meets the power of the pack.